Hello, everyone. My name is Xi'an Jiaotong. On behalf of I and Ms. Susanna Dickinson from the University of Arizona School of Architecture, I'm going to present our research called Morphing Architectural Domains, the role of human and AI in terms of architectural design. So I'm going to share my screen so that you can see my presentation as a whole. And we're going to talk about the research in a while. So our research started with observing all the tools and techniques that are being poured into our design process every single day. And we wanted to know how it will evolve our design process as a whole, and what role do we as humans and the AI systems that are being integrated into the design system will play as we move forward into the future. The research basically started from looking at all the previous tools before computation that got delved into the design process. And we realized that there's a pattern. Every single tool was basically used to applied as an accelerator of the whole design process to make the system less laborious for us and come up with systems that basically translate what we're thinking in our mind into our pages that were used to communicate designs back then. But from the 1960s era, all the computational techniques started pouring in, and interestingly, up until almost recently, they had the same ideology behind them. They were used to make design process faster, and they were basically aiding factors that were making the work less laborious for us. But the most important or the interesting part is these tools and techniques, none of them were basically taking part in our design process. Even if we list the tools that we were using throughout the time, we can see like every single tool had their own purpose. And of course, they were plugged into different parts of the design process as a whole, if we oversimplify it on a linear basis. But again, very limited number of tools was actually taking part in the design process. And even if they were, human intelligence stood exclusive in some of the spaces where there was no alternative whatsoever. For example, if we could talk about design imagination, design vision, translating what we're thinking in our head into a visual communication method, then finally coming up with the idea of spatiality, what goes beside what, and what should be the interrelation between spaces, and finally making them 3D and placing them in the right context. That's basically human agency that almost got no competition throughout the years up until very recently. And if we try to map the efforts to plug in intelligence into the design process, even in between these things, we'll see attempts like Urban 5 or CA3D or Grasshopper. These all had some parametric ideas which could give us some generative dimensions to design. But again, the focus for most of these cases where they were trying to automate the repetitive tasks that we were trying to do. And the new thing was the pre-design analysis, sometimes they were pretty qualitative, but the quantitative aspects of it got automated based on these attempts. And design got digitized. I mean, we got more precise things, we got better drawings and resolutions, but none of them was basically taking part in the process where we human beings were definitely staying alone. The AI thing, it's technically not new. I mean, if we talk about the previous examples like Urban 5, CA3D, or even recent developments like Grasshopper plugins like Vela, which has generative capacities, they were there and they definitely had some degree of intelligence built into them. But they were basically designed to do one thing and one thing only. And most of the cases, the result that they came up with was predetermined, because they were basically trying to find solution for problems which were, combination and permutation and iterations of different things got combined. But from 2013, the idea of GAN being introduced, then the AI models that produces images coming into play. Now, for the first time, we have things that can actually come up with design solutions. Based on the recent development of techniques like supervised, unsupervised learning, even reinforced learning that got into play, all the things about computer vision and human-computer interaction getting into newer levels, we are getting like tools that are not just mere aids, rather they can be crucial and integral part of our design process. So what are the difference between an expert system and the new tools that we're talking about? As we have discussed before, for expert systems, if you input multiple parameters, by combining those parameters, the system definitely wants to come up with a single solution. But a single solution will have to be pre-designed by someone, so that by just placing the contextual parameters that we set on a newer basis, it basically drives us to that specific design that we pre-designed. But AI systems, they have a radial basis of thinking. I mean, they can reinforce their learning systems and come up with proximity-based, probability-based, or imagination-based result, as we can call them. So this is the basic idea of AI. I mean, it generates a capacity to think on its own. So the result itself shouldn't have to be predetermined. Rather, it develops a tendency to notice patterns in the solutions that was done before and come up with something entirely new. And Xi'an in general basically made it possible to have multiple layers of imagination built into it. So it almost looks like the imagination process of a brain. And of course, many architectural problems, it doesn't have a single solution. So generative solutions, they have the capacity to come up with different results over and over and over again, even though they are fed the same problem multiple times. And based on different types of systems, they can be very complex at times. I mean, they can have memories built into them, they can give feedback to each other, and sometimes it goes on a circular process, or multiple layers of input can lead you to a single or multiple results. Now, the evolution of Xi'an in general has sparked like a creativity famine, or a creativity abundance at the same time. So it does some sort of imagination work for us. That's the bottom line of the entire thing. So it basically reinforces its own learning. It can come up as a way of producing like images as visual communication. Sometimes it comes up as a text to speak to you based on large language models, and combining them into the architectural process has been a trend recently. I mean, if we give a big language model or a big image model a prompt like architectural design concept for a vernacular school in Bangladesh, it will definitely give you some concepts, some interior spaces, some exterior spaces, and some of them are really unique. I mean, as architects, we basically do this every single day. This was the integral part of us. Before this, we tried to use different tools to do drawings for us, to do visualization for us, but the imagination, it remains exclusively inherent to us, which now the machine is showing some capacity of doing. And if they match with your own imagination or surpasses it, you can use them into your design process. So that's the new difference that AI is bringing into the design field as we speak. So revisiting the exclusivity circle we showed before, the idea of imagination, design, vision, and visual communication is somehow being tapped into by the AI systems. But the idea of having the spatiality and contextuality are very integral into any architectural design. I mean, you cannot call any object or any visual as architectural if we don't possess these qualities. So the aim of this research was to investigate like if the AI systems can actually get into these territories so that we can have some sort of a co-pilot in our design process. There have been like instances where we have tried out different types of tools to get to that. So the idea of spatiality is best communicated by floor plans. And we tried to find out if automated systems can come up with floor plans that we used to draw as architects. And it became the quintessential core of our profession as a whole in mainstream practice for many years. So we used a tool called Pathfinder and gave it a problem to develop a 3-bedroom house with 2 bathrooms in the context of UK. And it came up with like iterative solutions. I mean, it gave us different solutions like many times. But we definitely noticed a pattern. For example, like if we give it the same entry point, the same number of beds, number of baths, and all the parameters that we're supposed to give it, it eventually keep on giving us the same solution over and over again. That is because this is an expert system. All the solutions that it gives were pre-built into it, so no matter how many problems that we give it, it doesn't actually come up with new solutions every single time. So it has the idea of spatiality somehow built into it, but the idea of novelty, which is one of the reasons human intelligence remains exclusive in terms of architecture, isn't present in this system. Then we went on and tried some general models, like an image model called Adobe Firefly. It gave us some plans. They look like plans, but they don't have any idea about spatiality or contextuality. It has the visual communication part of it, but it doesn't qualify as architectural design. And if we look at a specialized tool like Make It, it gives us like really good spatial relation. And of course, these plans are visually pretty connecting. We can even consider them like the basis of our 3D if we extrude these things. They're not 100% correct in terms of architectural spatial relations, but they somehow got the proximity things or the calculative parameters that we need to call it a house. That thing got covered. So the AI revolution that we're going through is still at its infancy, and these cases kind of show that we're not there yet, but many engines have like the capacity of coming up with solutions that we strive or want to develop as architects. Now, there are some other very interesting developments like termite nest. It basically understands the idea of a bubble diagram and interrelation between spaces. You can even control it on your own idea, and definitely it gives you some floor plans. Now, it's interesting how it sees floor plans because it has that spatial quality built into it, but sometimes it comes up with solutions that as human beings we will not be coming up with in general. So it doesn't succeed from the degree of looking at it from traditional architectural practices, but then again, the qualities, the quantitative qualities that we're talking about, the AI system actually can come up with solutions that shows this kind of plans. And we tried the same design prompt, a 3-bedroom apartment in the context of London, on this. So it doesn't have any contextual data parameter, but it definitely comes up with the solutions that we want, like the quantitative ones, particularly the number of bedrooms, the number of bathrooms, specific square footage, an entry point, and all those things. Now, the idea of spatiality can be addressed better if we go to engines like HouseGN. I mean, it is basically designed to automate the design process of floor plan layout of 3-bedroom houses, and it can be easily converted into 3D. So in terms of visual communication, these are pretty successful. The spatial relationships, they're also there. And also, unlike the image models, the novelty aspect of it is pretty unique as well. Architecture has some bounding parameters into it. So these engines actually have that capacity inside them without a doubt. Now, what are the findings of this research? We basically can come to conclusion that the parametric systems like a plan finder, they have the capacity to enhance the time efficiency that we want from these automated systems, but that is limited in creativity because it doesn't offer the novelty that humans being can. So it doesn't shift the human agency in architectural practices. On the other hand, AI generation images offer that novelty, but because of their bias towards almost visual fidelity, it doesn't give you the aspects of qualitative and quantitative designing. So it kind of, enhances human roles, but cannot shift it. So the AI itself has the capacity to enhance human roles. That's what we can take away from this. But on the other hand, advanced models like termite nest or HouseGN, they can actually go beyond this visual fidelity obsession and comes up with viable results for a very specific set of problems. Now, the overarching problem is none of these models that we have tested actually came up with any idea about contextuality. Even sophisticated models like human HouseGN kind of neglect the contextual problems despite their advanced graph-based layout of generative capacities. So that's why we can conclude that human agency in design is still very much alive and would keep its place for now, at least in terms of qualitative aspects. However, the process will evolve and design agency will definitely shift in future because they're showing that pattern right now. So what does AI can do? It can be a very good co-designer as it stands right now. We can use it in different levels of design, and we can even rely on it to do certain things so that we can unleash our creativity and get into the spaces where our creativity gives us more freedom in terms of design. The human input is essential not only to design but also to build an AI system that will eventually be more capable. So the idea of feeding data into those things, removing biases, ensuring ethical considerations, the human input actually is increasing in design systems. And the inclusive way of designing should have the idea of contextuality. So the anthropocenic design approach that we have right now can evolve using AI because it shows signs that it thinks differently from human beings. But on the other hand, as we develop them, it's heavily dependent on human agency regarding how it behaves in the future. So for further research, I think we should look into things where research directions are waving towards how we can transcend like 2D floor parameters into 3D spaces, and a lot of 3D GIM systems are coming into play regarding that. So that should be interesting, how we iterate spaces, maintain spatial relationship, or even establish contextual boundaries of our designs based on AI. But as we try to develop them, we can say for certain that the human role in design will definitely change. I mean, it's pretty early to say that human beings will lose all their jobs because of AI being plugged into design. But the way we design now is definitely going to change in 10 years. And AI, not as a mere tool, but also as a co-pilot, will play a pivotal role into that system. So thank you, everyone, for listening to our work, and we hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, I'll be in the presentation to answer any of the questions that you have. Thank you.